All right, guys. Senior night tonight. When the final buzzer sounds, we'll be celebrating the careers of Max Scott, Justin Gilbert, and Brandon Adams in their times here at Oswego. When you look at these three guys, what stands out to you?
Well, starting with Brandon Adams, of course, he's the captain this year. When I think of Brandon Adams, I of course think to earlier in the season when they had the Navy SEAL training that we got to observe. Brandon Adams was one of the highlights from that time. Really stepped up as a captain. They gave him the T-shirt there, which is a very special honor there. So Brandon Adams always has presented himself such a positive light. And although the season, the results may not have gone as Adams, Scott, and Gilbert may have anticipated, with two of them being captains, no one can ever doubt the leadership and the character of Brandon Adams. So he's been a very, very good Lakers for his few years. Hasn't been in the statistics too much. Brandon Adams has been a good, solid contributor for this team for the past few years.
Yeah, when I think of Brandon Adams, I think about the game last year at the Carrier Dome on that breakaway. The speed that he has, he's by far the fastest player on this team. You can just see it on the ice. And just the electricity that he brings every time he scores. Doesn't rack up a lot of goals. But like that one goal that he scored on that breakaway, like that was huge just momentum-wise. And that's what he just brings, that energy and that electricity on the ice.
Yeah, I think his signature kind of move coming down the near side boards with his, like you said, his speed is just something that you always are impressed with when it comes to on the ice with Brandon Adams. But also off the ice, he's such a great guy too. I know watching the TOP segment for Whiteout, he's a guy who likes to have a lot of fun. He doesn't take himself too seriously, and it's good to see that you're in college and you can have a good time while you have this responsibility of being on this hockey team. You also have for Brandon Adams, he knows how to have fun, and he doesn't take everything so seriously. So it's nice to know that you can have a guy like that who can lighten up the locker room and have jokes like that, because obviously we see Brandon Adams is such a very much a team guy, very much talking with his teammates. So he's going to be someone who you miss, as certainly as an assistant captain. He did bring a lot, especially that Navy SEAL training. That really brought out a lot in these players that we've never really seen before with Brandon Adams.
Yeah, and Scott and Gilbert, I know Scott, it was kind of almost a surprise that he got assistant captain this year, at least in my eyes. Kind of a more soft-spoken player, kind of had to step into big shoes with the way the defensemen, got gutted with graduations and injuries and stuff like that. So to see him kind of step up was good. And for Gilbert, I think, we're talking about Justin Gilbert. This guy, he's the type of guy that I think when he looks back at Oswego, he's going to think, man, I never really got that full chance. Freshman year has to play behind an amazing goaltender in Andrew Hare, and his last 3 years he plays behind Matt Zawatsky, who literally took over the SUNYAC as a freshman, and maybe he hasn't put up the best numbers. It's still very good numbers, still best top of the conference, but not the kind of numbers we were seeing his freshman year. Gilbert, in his own right, a very good goaltender, and a guy that when they put him out there, more often than not, he was able to get the job done. It's just that he never got really total control of the starting goaltender position.
That's a good point that you made. Sitting behind Andrew Hare, who that his senior year, which was Gilbert's freshman year, 7 shutouts. Like Gilbert, I think he got some good experience. And when Zawatsky took over, that's just tough. Gosek had to go with the hot hand. But look at last year when Zawatsky was out. Gilbert played 10 games. He went 6-1-2 and gave up less than 2 goals per game. So he's been that reliable piece. And you talk about with Brandon Adams, how much of a fun guy he is. You talk to Justin Gilbert. He loves to talk. He's great with interviews with us. He just likes to have fun, and he knows whenever his team needs him that he's been there. And he showed that last year, although they only made it to they lost in the quarterfinals. Like it was I guess you say a disappointment on Oswego hockey. Those 10 games where Zawatsky was out, to only lose one of those with Gilbert in the net, that's big for them in the middle of the season to carry the momentum going in.
Yeah, you're talking about Justin Gilbert. He's someone, like you said, Ryan. He likes to have a lot of fun. He always is smiling every time I see him, whether it's in the arena or just walking around campus. I usually see him with a smile on his face, and doing interviews with the past couple of seasons. He's just someone who he is that fun-loving energy guy, and unfortunately he didn't get his time here, but when he did play, he still was a reliable goaltender. It's interesting because he's the lone player left 4 years ago who went to that national championship where they lost to Eau Claire. But it's been a very interesting career for him. I think he looks back and he doesn't bother him though when you talk about him starting, or he's always about the team.
That's an important role though. If when a player like Matt Zawatsky goes down, or someone isn't, or when a goalie just isn't as effective in the net, and you need someone to step in, that's an important role, and he showed the value that teams can have with that.
Yeah, and just
Justin Gilbert, I mean, he's a backup. You may consider him a backup goalie for a lot of his time at Oswego, but if you put him on a lot of other Division III teams, he'd probably be the starter. That's the kind of talent that Justin Gilbert does have. So we remember him for the signature paint on his helmet coming out of the net a little too much for our liking sometimes, giving us heartaches. But Justin Gilbert always stepped in when Matt Sawatsky couldn't play, has had a lot of good moments as Oswego State Laker. And as you said, Jordan, only one of these three guys to be here since a national championship run, only one of the three to be here for 4 years. So Justin Gilbert has had a very successful Oswego State Laker career, if you ask me.
Maybe these three guys won't end up, being in the record books, for the top guys to ever play here at Oswego, but they're Lakers nonetheless, and they still were part of some really great teams. So it'll be great to see them get that sort of ceremony at the end of the game and get recognized for their accomplishments here in Oswego. So we'll now send it back to the perch with the rest of the pregame.